Well, you know, it's a weird thing, man, when, you know, the whole idea of happiness and pleasure is a lot of it revolves around people wanting to be around you. He was getting dumped and he was super upset about it and he didn't know how to deal with it and he was asking me for advice. And I said, do you love this girl? And he said, yes. And I said, well, if you love her, you should want her to be happy. And if her being happy means her being with another man or another person, you should respect that and you should love her still. I go, this is just a human being and people break up and I don't hate everyone I used to date. In fact, with time, I love all of them, even the ones that I didn't get along with, man. When I look back on every single girl that I ever dated, I swear to God, I only will allow the positive thing. I have some negative stories that are really funny and I tell them, but in my mind, when I'm thinking about that person, I only think about them when I love them. I only think about them, I mean, whatever, no matter what went wrong, you know, no matter, you know, what horrible thing was said, you know, that made the whole thing fall apart. I refuse to define them by that, and I instead define them by their potential, by what they meant to me when they were at their best. But it's really fucking hard to teach people that, man. It's really hard to over and over again realize when you fall face first into the fucking dirt that your thinking is incorrect and that it's not empowering and you're not helping yourself or anyone else. And in fact, you're devaluing yourself into this person's eyes because you become desperate and you have no personal sovereignty.
That's right.
A man that can't be with a woman without a woman when a woman doesn't want to be with a man is a repulsive thing. You know, we've all seen it, man. It was an episode of Fear Factor we had this week where there was this poor guy and his wife didn't want to have nothing to do with him anymore. They divorced and she was fucking, you know, just living her life and they were still connected because they had a kid together and she would just mock him openly and publicly and she had no desire to fuck him again. She was just ready to make fun of him and it hurts. It hurts watching it, man. It hurts your fucking soul. It cuts into you. You see it and you go, this poor fuck, he doesn't even know. He's just trapped in this horrible pattern. And this person has become a negative downer drug. Yeah. This person gives them a depressing drug every time they see them.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
It's called, the bonds of Maya. That's one name for it, or you get entangled in the illusory aspect of the universe and you don't even realize it. And then you're just fucking in pain, but you're the reason you're in pain. It's so sad, but it's real. And it's like, it's a plague, but it's also kind of cool, man. Those kinds of prisons, thought prisons, are the best prisons to get into because you have the key. You can get out. So hard
to get out of it, though. But one of the things is you can't be selfish because if you are selfish, you always want that person to be with you. You know, and this is what I was saying to my friend. I was like, dude, she does not want to be with you. You have to accept that.
Yeah.
You have to accept that this is a human being, and if you love this human being, you should want this human being to be happy.
Absolutely.
And your definition of love is you only love this human being if this human being provides you with the sex drug, provides you with the sex chemical. You can't just accept the fact that she wants the sex drug from someone different. Her genes are compelled to fuck someone different than you. And whether it's because you have personality shortcomings or physical shortcomings, it's not her responsibility. Her responsibility is to go towards what she enjoys and what she's attracted to. But we are so selfish that no one ever thinks that way.
Well, but also, man, aside from like letting someone have a happy life and not trying to manipulate or control them into being stuck with you, the other thing is it's so much better for you to be with someone who really likes you.
Fuck yeah.
You know?
My God, the guys who want to like change a chick, you know, you grow to love me. My God, dude.
Yeah.
Some savage is going to come along and fuck her in a laundromat, okay?
Yeah.
That's going to happen. You can't. Everyone needs to be extremely attracted to each other. Everyone needs to be extremely, whether it's just attracted to each other's minds, or each other's personality, whether it's physical, whatever it is, there has to be a real, because if there's not, if you don't have that, one of two things is happening. Either you're not putting that out enough, you're not a dynamic enough human, both with your consciousness or with your objectivity or with your love or with your affection or with your generosity. You're not putting out enough.
Not working.
And if you're not putting that out enough, people don't want to give it back to you. So this beautiful, attractive, healthy, vibrant, generous, loving person won't be attracted to you because you don't want to enhance them. You want to draw and take away from them. And so you rely on wounded animals. And it's just one more wounded animal after another wounded animal. And that's all you ever get because that's all you're attracting. You're attracting wounded animals because those are the only ones that are stupid enough to fucking fall into your web.
Yeah, that's true, man. And also a lot of those systems The pickup systems are designed to trap wounded animals. It's
Sure,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, so it's like really
You just prey on the vulnerable, and it's
Yeah.
only because the value of sexuality it's such a value. It's very important. Like you need it. Like it will make you feel better. You know it will. It's
Yeah,
your medicine.
sure.
You got to go. You know. I do always get sad when girls try to make me jealous.
Like using
I've
that.
always been sad. Like my whole life, I've always thought that was like one of the weakest things ever. When someone, you can tell the only reason why they're bringing this up or they're talking about their ex is to try to fuck with your head. Like it never works. All that it makes you feel uncomfortable. But the uncomfort that I feel is, oh, you're not as cool as I thought you were, and now you're creepy and you're trying to fuck with me. And okay, can I talk you out of this? Can I tell you that this is not necessary and we're just, two people that are enjoying each other's company, getting to know each other? We don't have to play any stupid games that we've already played in the past. We should all learn, right?
Right.
I played some stupid games when I was a little kid. I had to learn that they were dumb. So when someone doesn't know that games like that are dumb, like jealousy games, I'm like, fucking really? Come on, man. What am I, a fucking child? Cut this shit. So another guy fucked you? That's crazy. Get out of here. I can't believe it. You're hot and you're 26 and another guy's fucked you already? Jesus Christ. Was this recent? Was it? That bitch is probably sucking somebody's dick an hour before she picked you up. She's fucking crazy. For sure it goes away. With maturity, everything evolves. The problem is when people they go from one shit relationship to the next shit relationship and they never get traction as a human being. Never get traction and never realize. And if you have shit friends on top of that, which a lot of girls do, man, especially pretty girls, a lot of pretty girls, their friends be hating. It's tough, man, because for them, it's like, if you're out with a pretty girl, if you're a girl and you're out with a pretty girl, no one is going to pay attention to you. Everyone's going to pay attention to her. And she didn't even do anything to deserve this. She was just born this way. And you're so much funnier and so much cooler and you'd be so much better girlfriend. And you will get crazy for that bitch and you'll try to trip her up. You'll want her to fail. You'll hope she falls and breaks her fucking nose, Like literally, like you're tired. She's stealing from you. She's stealing male attention from you. That's how a lot of chicks feel about hot chicks, man. They don't like it. So anything like that, man, if that's your situation, if you're around people like that are douchey to you and you're around ex-boyfriends who are douchey to you, you can get into a bad grind where you just automatically get douchey first because you think they're going to get douchey first and you want to get the upper hand, You ever get in those relationships where you can tell that someone's fucking with you just to get the upper hand and
Oh, yeah. I hate
expecting
that
more?
shit. Yeah.
Oh, it's so annoying.
And the worst is when you go with it. Just to see where it goes.
Ugh. The worst for me is if I get involved in it and I haven't been working out. Especially when I was younger. Dude, when I was younger, I did not have such a good judgment, and I still don't sometimes, about when to argue and when to just go, what the fuck am I arguing over? Yeah. Back then, I just argued automatically. I'm like, you're not going to stop me from arguing. Fuck you. And it would just turn ugly every time. Every time I got in an argument with somebody, it would turn ugly. But as I got older, any kind of relationship like that, when shit comes up, now I try very, very hard now to just look at it and go, what is the purpose of all this? Who gives a shit if you're right? Who gives a shit if you're wrong? Here's what I want. I want to be around people that I enjoy talking to. And I know there can't really be this many problems that we fight all the time. If there's this many problems that we fight all the time, where is that coming from? That's got to be a personality thing, because I don't have that many problems in my life. My life's pretty smooth. Most of the people in my life are very nice. Most of the people in my life, we enjoy each other's company. There's very few. Everybody has, like, here and there'll be issues with any human being where someone sees something totally differently, but you can talk it through, and if you're really good friends, you work it out and everything's cool and nobody ever gets ugly. But the real key, man, is finding other people that go along with that. Because as soon as you go with someone who's used to douchey shit and is used to insulting you and is used to playing games, as soon as you go into that and you dive into that world, man, you're fucked. No progress.
Yeah.
No fun.
And then it's so hard to get out of it.
So hard.
And then once you get out of it, you're so sad because you got out of it. And you have to get back in it just because you felt so sad for getting out of that.
Well, being alone, man, when you just got out of a relationship and then all of a sudden you're alone and lonely, those are the darkest, emptiest, most hollow moments as an adult human being. That feeling's a terrible, terrible feeling. most people just aren't equipped to understand rationally what's really going on. Like, why are you so upset? How much of this is just evolutionary? How much is this? It's been designed into the whole human mechanism to to feel dreadful every time you're left alone, to feel terrible every time you're rejected. You're being rejected by someone you don't even know is brutally painful. Why is that? Why would you even care? If it was a dude who didn't like you, if you had no desire to fuck that person, if you just came up to a dude and dude was like, "Look at you, you're not even good looking," you'd be like, "What the fuck, you faggot?" You know, you wouldn't care at all. It wouldn't change your opinion of yourself at all. But when a chick does it to you, it's like devastating.
Oh, totally.
Especially if it's a chick that you're attracted to.
Oh,
That's
horrible.
all, but it's all evolution. It's all set up that way to try to get you to be as attractive as possible and to make very stringent standards that what people find and don't find attractive. It's to make you operate at a higher level. I think it's all just designed to make you work harder as a human being to become more impressive as a mate. And in doing so, and in becoming more impressive as a mate, you get to contribute more to society. You'll create more energy. You'll create more money. You'll create more whatever you do. Whether if you're in technology, you'll innovate more. If you're in art, you'll produce more art. You want to prove your worth. And so that craziness allows people to shine. And it's important to not give in to jealousy. When you see someone doing something that you're not doing and you feel like, fuck, I'm not doing, there's an instinct to protect yourself by bullshitting yourself and becoming jealous and bitter and talking shit about that person. And that's where haters come from. What haters are, 100% of all haters in the world are unrealized potential. When, like, Michael Jordan's not a hater, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, like, when you get to a guy at that level, they're not haters. The real haters are
There's no time to hate.
They see someone doing well and it bothers them. To a person like a Michael Jordan or a winner, they see someone doing well and it inspires them to take it up another notch.
I've always tried to look at things like that. When you see something great, and if it's a friend of yours or something, you have to use it as inspiration. It's
Yes.
supposed to inspire you. I think what happens is a lot of times they say, well, you know what, there is scarcity in the world, so there's only a certain size of the pie, and if you're doing this, you've taken up all the pie and there's no room for me.
Yeah.
Not true, man.
Not at all.
There is no scarcity.
It's a terrible way of thinking,
if you
too.
open yourself up to something beautiful and great and let that work through you and really be affected, be astonished by it, be scared by it,
Yes.
be brought to your knees by it, whatever it takes, you will find way more strength in that surrender to the beautiful than you will when you close yourself off. And all of us, man, all of us had this notion to go, I'm closing myself off and fuck this.
Everybody wants to win the lottery, but the lottery will fucking ruin you. You have to earn the whole thing. In order to be a real man or a real woman, you have to earn the whole thing. And the crazy thing is, to be the man, to get to that point, to be the man, you literally have to not ever be possibly the man. Because you have to get to this Zen state where there is no the man. It's all about the work. It's all about what genius you're putting out is all about, whether it's music or whether it's writing or whatever the fuck it is. It's all about finding that real pure place. So there is never the man. That's when the muse kicks in. The idea of this all comes from somewhere else. It's like, maybe it is just an attitude that allows you to bypass the ego. Brian, you've inspired people. This is a good podcast. You know, I've talked to so many people, and I talked to a lot of them this weekend. We did the Irvine Improv, and it was a lot of fun. And we talked to a lot of people that are podcast fans. And one of the things, the number one thing that keeps coming up is people say that, first of all, a lot of people listen to it at work. They listen to it when they're doing stupid shit that they don't like doing, and they just love the fact that there's something like this out there. And two, they say it gives them an opportunity to look at things completely different. And it's shaping the way people think, man. There's a difference between what we're doing here than the sort of the average radio show and the average podcast is we're not afraid to talk about weird, deep shit and go and because of that, it's allowing other people to consider possibilities and ways of thinking that I don't think they would have.
In this dimension you're in, you know, people aren't gonna, you know, lay down for you just because you have a higher spiritual truth. Like, you have to bring both aspects to bear. And I think that's what we were supposed to do. And I think almost everybody is too whack on either side. You know, there's the big muscle heads that are like, oh yeah, fuck that hippie bullshit, crystals, 8th dimension, that fucking faggot. And then there's this, you know, the other side of things that's like,
they have no sense of humor.
yeah, no sense. Like
almost academic in it.
Yeah, it's all energy. It's all love. It's all light. And then someone fucking snatches their purse, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's something wrong with you." No, like protect your shit. You know, like both sides are applicable. I'm hoping that's why, you know, some people will listen to kind of what I'm saying. It's because I try to be able to do that. Like I want to kick ass in business and still talk to people about, yeah, dude, like I went to another dimension and it was fucking crazy.
A lot of people want to push aside or deny the importance of the physical world, the whether it's capitalistic gains or whether it's keeping your body fit and sexually attractive. They want to deny the significance and importance of these things and the meaning of these things, almost as like a form of socialism, because they don't want to compete.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to be sexually attractive. And so women will say, oh, is that what you care about? Oh, you're shallow. You care about what someone looks like? No, I'm a human being. I'm a human being. And if you're fat, that's gross. Okay? That's just the way it is. And you can pretend all you want. And, you know, maybe you'll take fat with a great personality over skinny that's a cunt. Yeah, maybe you make some compromises. And, you know, no one's perfect physically. But let's be honest about what we're looking at and what you like and why you like it. And that goes with capitalism as well. That goes with being a successful person. You know, there's a lot of people that think that there's something shallow about being monetarily successful. And I think that's a form of socialistic thinking as well. It's like, you want this to be a level playing field because you can compete. Yeah. And that's really what it is. You know, and you got to find your fucking place in the sun, jackass. And, you know, some people, I will never be playing professional basketball. I'm 5'8" and I don't run that good. And it's just the way of the world, man. It ain't a fair world, okay? Yeah. You got your own hand. This is your journey. You deal with the hand that you're given and just find your fucking place. But don't try to hold other people back. Don't try to say there's something wrong with that girl being sexy as fuck. Don't think there's something wrong because that guy's got a six-pack that makes girls wet. You know, when they see him, you can't hate because you're fat. You can't hate. Oh, but he's shallow, just going to the gym all day. I'm sure he's really interesting to talk to. Maybe he is. Maybe he's more interesting than you, stupid, because guess what? It only takes like an hour a day to work out. You telling me that all those other hours of the day he has to be doing meaningless meathead shit to make your paradigm work? No, you want to pull the playing field down. You're not trying to level things out. You're not trying to rise. You know, I'm writing a book, and one of the chapters, it's all about, it's called if you get cancer from your cell phone, you're a fucking pussy. It's all maintaining your manhood in an ever-changing world is the idea of it. That as things become more and more complicated, it's very difficult to be true to your nature as a human being and as a man. And that one of the biggest ways that you become a bitch is you get a job. And jobs will turn you into a bitch more than anything that a man encounters in his whole life. Having a boss, having something that you don't want to do that becomes most of your life. Most of your life is 8 hours a day that you're waking. The 2+ commuting hours you throw in there. Most of that is shit you don't want to do. Your life becomes mostly what you don't want to do. And then once you start getting things that you have to pay for, like car payment or an apartment rental, or God forbid you start fucking shitting out kids, and then you have to pay for them. Yeah, then you become a real bitch, because then you can't say what you want because you're worried about getting fired. You know, I've had people say that to me, like, you say things like that? Do you ever worry that the UFC is going to say something? Or do you? Well, I'm in the luxurious position where I don't have to worry about that. But goddamn, fuck yeah, of course I would. You know, if I was barely getting by and I didn't have money saved up and I didn't have other career paths, you know, being a comedian is the most beautiful fucking thing to ever have as your main occupation, because we can always go to that. You know, and we can always speak our mind. And if people know they can count on you, look, one of the reasons why this podcast is so successful is because there is no bullshit going on in this podcast. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of stoner talk. But every fucking thing that I say because I believe it. I'm being honest about my thoughts.
Right.
There's not a lot of people that are thinking like that in this world. There's not a lot of people who have the luxury with their job to be honest about their points of view all throughout the day.
But what do you do? And this is something that I always wondered, and I share this idea that you have, and you're right. Having a job is a form of slavery.
Well, you get locked into the system. You get locked into the machine.
But what would the world be like if you applied this philosophy, if everyone on the planet heard you saying that and suddenly left their jobs?
Yeah, it would be impossible.
What do we have?
We have a far too complex society where there's a bunch of shit that needs to get done that nobody wants to do.
But what is that?
That people should allow anyone to push any ideology on their kids. Everybody thinks that like having your kids grow up religion is no big deal and it's good for them. I agree to give your kids some morals and set some standards of behavior and to tell them that, about communicating with people, that what's important is you be positive, you do good things, be a good person, and spread out that good energy, spread out love. But to make the kid, to have them go to any fucking super religious school, you're going to fuck their programming up so bad. But no one is objective enough to see that. People just want to have good kids, and they want to carry on the tradition that their family has.
Seems like
what they should do is teach you the different principles of each religion and not say either one of them is the fucking answer.
Right.
There's too many of them. You look at all the good aspects of all the different religions and say, well, where did all this come from? We don't know. We don't know where it came from. We assume it came from some wise people that got through a lot of conflict and figured out some way to live life, and then they wrote it down, and some of it makes a lot of sense even today. But when the book that you're basing everything on includes treating women as second-class citizens, condoning slavery, murder, a fucking angry God who punishes people by death, and you're going to burn in a fucking fiery hell, and come on, just shut the fuck up. Just stop it. You're talking goofy nonsense. You got to show me something. You got to show me a fucking YouTube clip. You got to show me something before I want to believe in this kind of goofy shit. Right. It's just silly. But in 2010, we still let that slide. We still say, well, everyone has their own freedom of religion, do whatever you want. But if you start saying, like, stop, this is fucking completely ridiculous. You're saying your way is the only way. You're saying people should die if they dance. You're saying, people can't be gay and get married. You're saying you're imposing all your bullshit on other people. We still accept it in 2010? When are we going to get past this? When are we going to step up and say, no one knows? No one knows. You don't know. Don't say you know. You can't say you know. If you say you know, you're crazy. Tell me your experiences. Tell me what happened. Throw it in the pile. Let's all sort this out. You can't tell me that, this is the way and you're the chosen people. And just shut the fuck up. Stop. All your Joseph Smith and your fucking nutty Scientology. Stop. Stop. It's all crazy. And it's fucking up everything. Because when people pretend they have the answer, it fucks up everybody else that's searching for the answer. Because there's an option to not even think. There's an option to, fuck joining the search to figure out how to live the life the best way. Let's just fucking follow what these douchebags are doing. Joyless religion.
How can you get hit?
So
I don't
joyless.
like nobody hitting. I can see it pulling my ear or give me a punch to the back or something.
No, going to Catholic schools, though. I went to Catholic school for first grade. I was very religious when I was a little kid. My parents got divorced when I was 5. They separated, and I was really lost, and I was really scared. I remember thinking, my dad's not around anymore. This is crazy. It's just me and my mom and my sister. It was very unsettling. My mom had to work all day, and we had to be in different people's houses while they babysat us, or grandparents, whatever. It was unsettling. And while this was all going on, I went to Catholic school. And it was my first year in Catholic school, first grade. And they were so fucking mean. Dude, I don't remember shit about first grade, okay? I don't remember anything about being 6 years old. You know what I remember? Sister Mary Josephine at Our Lady of Czestochowa in Paterson, New Jersey. I think it was Paterson. It's Paterson or Newark. I remember that. I remember that fucking
Because it was a scary experience. Religion is very scary.
I lived there for a year, okay? I went to that school for a year, and in that year, I went to school every day terrified. And every day there was this fucking cunt, old, wasted up, used up life nun that was just evil to everyone, every day. It was always yelling at you. I would cry. I missed my mother, the first day. I cried. Don't let him. He's a baby. You want to cry like a baby? I was
that's fucking crazy, man.
I was
that's
6 years old. This fucking evil cunt. And if you didn't do your work right or you didn't listen to her or anything was wrong, she would tell you she was going to make you sit on a nail in the closet.
What?
It was like a fucking Pink Floyd video.
Is that just East Coast religion or something like that? Because you guys both have
Catholic nuns,
crazy,
bro.
scary.
It's Catholic nuns.
Catholic
That's
nuns.
scary
Catholic,
shit.
they don't let them fuck.
Damn.
When people don't get to fuck, they're not happy. Period. End of discussion. Your whole life is no dick. How are you going to be happy? You're not going to come. You don't come at all. What does a guy do? He doesn't come? Does he fuck? He fucks no one? He can't even jerk off? What kind of a life is that? That's a horrible existence. It's not love. It's not passion, emotion, celebration of life. No, it's all just do what I tell you, follow my rules, or you burn in hell. And let me touch your cock.
Damn.
There's a lot of that
I was going to go back and talk to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of good religions
Protestant,
that are like...
aren't you?
I'm Lutheran.
They become a good part of the community. It's like a nice step-off point where everybody gets together and you know, promises to be nice, you know? You promise to abide by the laws and respect your friends, and you have cookouts and shit, and there's a lot of positivity in being in a church. There's a lot of positive shit about any big community gathering where everybody agrees to be nice. And the best way to get everybody to agree to be nice is to say that's what God wants. There's a lot of fucking great things about church. But not the Catholic Church, bro. That shit ain't good. This fucking thing that's going on with the Pope, we've talked about it already on the show, but for people who don't know, the guy who's the Pope right now is been accused, and there's all this evidence that points to the fact that he was shielding child molesters. This guy who's the Pope. He was protecting the church and shielding known child molesters and then putting them back in action around other kids that the guy went on to molest again. And we all grew up with it. I mean, Joey can tell you. Anybody who went to Catholic school. Nobody went to Catholic school and had an awesome experience.
I never got molested. That's the thing.
Not even molested.
I
Just
didn't get
beat the fuck out of.
Yeah, no. That
Nobody
was
even
fucking
beat me.
horrible.
I think she whacked me with a ruler once, but it wasn't bad. It was just a little slap. You know, it wasn't anything like nobody ever did what they did to you. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just an unfortunate choice to waste your whole life, you know, in a non-loving, non-friendship oriented sort of a situation like that, based on a bunch of fucking silly, crazy old rules. Like, we need as a human being, the human beings as a race, we have to, as a race, get past where we're at right now and move into some new way of like designing the way human beings behave and act. And it can't be based on some nonsense. It has to be based on just positive energy and success as a race, success as a neighborhood, success as a group of friends. You know, there's a way to live your life. There's a way to be positive, and there's a way to figure out a way to spread the most positive energy, and the way to be the most honest, the way to be the most creative, and the most friendly, and the most productive, and the most satisfied. There's a way to do that, and it's I believe. And, you know, it was very clear. Constantine he was an emperor. He wanted to control people. And that's what it's best at. It's so good at controlling people that you'll let pedophiles fuck your kids because they have the fucking, the magic fairy tale golden ticket. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that this goofy fuck in a crazy outfit, this cult leader, gets special treatment. They'll make fun of the Moonies. They'll make fun of Scientologists. But the fucking Pope on TV somehow or another gets to be national news. This crazy fuck who's not allowed to have sex, who hangs out with a bunch of crazy fucks who aren't allowed to have sex, and every rock you fucking pick up, there's a priest fucking a kid underneath it. I mean, it's just throughout their entire organization. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. Every fucking year new ones pop up. Every fucking year some new scandal about how they knew this guy was fucking kids and so they moved him to New Mexico or some shit. I mean, it's really shocking that Catholic people are even going to church anymore. It's completely shocking that there's still people that they trick. Just the sheer weight of its own bullshit should have collapsed the Catholic religion a long fucking time ago. And this is coming from someone who was raised a Catholic. I went to Catholic school when I was in first grade. 1 year I went to Catholic school. And it was such a fucking horrendous nightmare. I don't remember second grade. I don't remember it. I remember first grade, though, like a motherfucker, because first grade was the only year that I was in Catholic school. I remember this fucking cunt, Sister Mary Josephine, this evil, evil woman who used to tell you that if you didn't get your homework done, you were going to have to sit on a nail in the closet overnight. She would smack you in the head. I mean, it was real shit. If you cried, if you were upset about something, she would make fun of you. You know, look at this one crying. She was just no compassion, no love, no friendship, no warmth. It was all evil. It was all anger and evil. And that is what that relationship is. It is unnatural. It's not real. This relationship to life where you're a person who's in charge of some nonsense fairy tale, and because of that you get to shit on people and yell at their kids and hit their fucking kids and treat them like shit because you somehow or another are special, because you're one of those people that doesn't fuck, and you have, you know, what, do you have more access to God than, no, you don't even have more access. You don't have anything. It's the craziest, most ridiculous cult ever, and it's still going on. And if that's not a damning condemnation of human beings and human culture today, in 2010, with the age of information, with the internet, with all this, that we still have the Catholic religion, that stupid shit is still around, it's mind-boggling. Without a doubt. If there is a God, that's not what he wants. If there is a God, what God is the energy that creates everything. You know, it might not be a conscious thing, or it might be all conscious things together as one thing in some sort of a framework that we can't even recognize, because it's so big, it's so great that literally, you know, when some hippie says, hey, you are God and God's you, what if that's true? What if that really is true? What if our purpose on this life has shielded us from that recognition because we have to go through whatever we have to go through? Like, we're here for a reason, that we're pushing humanity and human culture and human innovation forward for a reason. You know, probably some sort of a technological thing that we're going to create that's going to enter us into the new age. But if that's the case, it's that we just lack the perception to really understand that we're in tune with anything, with everything, with the whole world, then that makes sense that everything is God. And that's the feeling that you get when you do mushrooms. When you do mushrooms, you get this feeling of connectedness, that you are attached. When you do DMT as well, which is very similar to mushrooms in what it is chemically. What DMT is dimethyltryptamine. What mushrooms are, cubensis mushrooms, is 4-phosphoraloxy and dimethyltryptamine. So they're very closely chemically related. And you have this intense feeling of connection with everything, with people, you know, with the friends in your life, with animals, with wilderness, I mean, that's why they say do mushrooms and go into nature. Because when you have some mushrooms and you're laying in the woods, you know, in a plot of trees, you feel like the energy of the trees. It's like some Avatar type shit. Like, you really feel like the fucking Tree of Souls communicating with you. I think that our main problem as human beings is that we are in a stage of evolution, and we're in an adolescent stage, and we are certainly passing where we used to be, and our potential for evolving above the basic fight or flight instincts, and our potential for evolving above just animal brutality and anger and jealousy and all these things that we think that we need in order to compete and survive. We have potential to rise above that, and that's what yoga is all about, and that's what meditation is all about, and isolation tanks, and people who are psychedelic enthusiasts. What that's all about is this struggle up this slippery slope to get to the top, to have just a little better view of what the world could be. And I think that's the potential that we have inside of us. It's all moving towards that. You know, human understanding, the idea of human enlightenment, you know, this quest to get your shit together. It's all moving away from these nonsensical animal instincts to something higher and more evolved. And I think that potential is the only good thing that human beings have. It's like we have this potential for one side or the other. We have this potential to be like, you know, like an evil government that corrupts its citizens, or we have this potential to be a brother. We have this potential to be a sister. We have this potential to be someone who loves you like they love family, like they love themselves. You know, I mean, I have a buddy that has a kid, and we were talking about babies recently, and we were just joking around. He's a comic as well. Gene Pompa last night at the Improv. And we're just talking about, and I've had this conversation with other people too, about how it makes you like so much a nicer person. And I said that, like, man, if everybody treated everybody the way I treat my daughter, what a fucking beautiful world we would live in. It would just be a world of warmth and friendship. And, you know, if we just had a pill that made you love everybody the way I love my daughter, and we do have a pill like that. It's called ecstasy. But that shit's terrible for you, and the next day you feel like shit and it hurts your head. But if we figured out a way, and maybe we're going to do that. I mean, maybe that's what the next stage of evolution really is all about. Maybe it's an evolution pill. You know, maybe, you know, some people will take the evolution vaccine and some people won't. And they'll shoot your arm with some shit that lasts like 6 months, and it's some vaccination against stupidity, some vaccination against nonsense, against a lack of understanding and appreciation of the fact that we're here in this temporary situation as one gigantic hive, one superorganism, and that the more love you spread out, the more positive energy you spread out, the more you get back. You know, the more it comes back to affect you, and it goes out in ripples, because the people that you affect, they affect other people as well. And the more positive you spread out, like literally, you can change your world. You can change the world of the people that you come in contact with. You know, I think that is what human beings are slowly starting to realize, and that may be what God really is. What God might be is everything. What it's not is a bunch of dudes in fucking robes that want to have sex with your kids, okay? That's not God. That's nonsense. And, you know, we were talking earlier about people who are on antidepressants, like what number of people are on antidepressants, and how weird it is when you're around someone who's loopy on antidepressants. And you're like, I wonder how much of our brain is just fucking designed to be a hunter and gatherer. And despite the fact that we've evolved way, way past that societally, the physical body is slow as shit to catch up to technology.
Yeah. The funny thing is, despite someone's response, like usually people, if you kill an animal for the first time and you're going to eat it, regardless of what you're going to do with it, you kill an animal for the first time, it's not, I don't want to say it's humbling, but it like stops other thoughts. You know, you're alone with that thought for a minute. But the interesting thing is, as much as I've seen that happen, I've never had anyone later come to regret having done it. You know, it's always in some way strengthening for people to go see that, like that life,
gives you
that
more
life
respect.
and death thing. No one's ever called me back and said that was just a terrible mistake. I've just never had it. You know, it's not like when I go into it, I don't think like, wow, who knows what's going to happen when this happens. I'm generally like, you know what's going to happen is the person's going to have a very fulfilling experience. You know, and they're going to appreciate the challenge. They might not ever go hunting again, but they'll always remember back on that and have come away and found out something about themselves. And it's like, it's never been otherwise. I would probably stop if I found that there was a high degree. You know, there's a thing that happened to me though with my own wife is she didn't grow up around hunting, you know, and she eats a lot of wild game and has eaten a lot of wild game ever since. She eats more wild game than 90% of the hunters I know. But she just had in her head, she's like, I don't want to see an animal. I don't need to see an animal get killed. She's like, I'm fine with the hypocrisy, if you want to call it hypocrisy. I'll eat wild game. I'll eat meat. I prefer to eat wild game over domestic meat. I just don't want to see a deer get killed. And one day I invited her. We were up at my cabin, and I invited her out on a deer hunt with us. And my brother wanted to get a deer. And we took our boat out and landed our skiff at this river mouth. And she was reluctant to go along because she was afraid of what she might see. And I had encouraged her to come because I'm like, what's going to happen is you won't even know the deer's there. We're going to spot a deer that's far away, probably obscured by brush. You'd have to look for it really hard to see it anyways. We're going to shoot it. By the time we get over there, it'll be dead, and it's not really the experience you're imagining. But we beached our skiff and started going up this gravel bar, this stream bank, and here comes 3 deer. Something scared them, a bear, I don't know what. Something scared them because they're running toward us. And they get so close that I'm not kidding you. I'm looking at the eyelashes on this deer.
Oh, my God.
They're just there. and I see that one of them's got spikes. One of them's a buck. And it was a buck-only season. And I see my brother. We're kind of hunkered down by a rock, and I see him, like, raising his rifle up. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I was like, do not shoot this deer right now. We'll just get another one later. And he, you know, piles that deer up. And when my wife looked at me,
he shot it.
Yeah.
You say piles that deer up.
Like, shot it at point blank.
How far away are we talking? 10 feet?
Needed that monitor.
Oh, my God.
Just close. You know what I mean?
Oh, my God.
And it turned, and she thought that he had missed, but it, you know, fell over. It was far. I'm exaggerating. It was far enough. It was very close. Maybe that twice that distance. So
even twice that distance.
But I mean,
still,
like I said, I remember seeing its eyelashes.
We're talking about like 30 feet.
Yeah.
And very, very, very close.
Yeah.
And when she looked at me after seeing that, she was looking at me across a vast, vast gulf of distance. It was like she looked at me like she had never
Seen you or something?
known me.
Yeah.
And I honestly, we were just married. We were married not even a year, and it was the look she gave me. I was like, this could be the end of our relationship.
Did she find it sexy?
No.
Come on,
Looked
man.
at me like we were the barbarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you just
and
assassinated
it was
Bambi
so
right in front of her.
But you know what was weird? And we're sitting, we drug the thing down, and she didn't think we drug it with enough ceremony. She's like, its head was banging on, you know, we gutted it out, drug it back, threw it in the skiff, and started motoring back toward our shack. And no one was saying a word in the boat at all. But then within 45 minutes, it was enough time for her to process what she saw. And her take home was, you know what? I guess I'd still rather eat that thing than, you know, an animal from a feedlot.
Sure. Of course.
It was just like, it just took her a minute because
Right.
she was like, and later I felt like, she's like, I feel like I should feel something different than I do. I feel like I should feel outrage.
Intellectually.
Yeah. But then once she sat in that boat and thought about it, it was just like, it just passed.
Yeah.
It passed. She's like, you know what? I don't know. Things die.
It's so
And we eat.
fascinating that you have this, you know, different point of view on death than, you know, so many people. And for your wife to experience it like in its most shocking form on the first pass.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would take a little while to
Yeah.
intellectualize something
I
like
took
that.
away something interesting by butchering the deer and getting my hands in that deer. And I kind of thought to myself, I can certainly see how a hunter would have an easier time taking a human's life with a knife or
I
whatever.
wonder about that all the time.
I
man.
think because you
Yeah.
have an intimate experience with that animal, you know, you're not as squeamish. Maybe you.
Yeah.
It is a strange feeling when you reach in there and you feel the guts for the first time.
Yeah.
The whole experience was really fascinating.
The heart.
But I passed out when my wife had an epidural when she was having our first baby.
Really?
Because I used to tell people, I'd be like, and I want to write it off as a needle thing. I
you
tell
have a
people
needle
I
thing?
could cut your arm off, but I can't watch you get a shot.
Wow, that's so weird.
I don't know if it's a needle thing, but I don't know that it translates. I think people do it. There's like an argument against hunting is that it turns you into like you're so comfortable with death and you're like an animal.
That should be the same
I don't know that it
argument in
necessarily
farming, then.
I don't think it translates to being like comfortable.
No, I don't think
human on
morally
human
or
violence.
ethically
No.
you want.
Been in the forest all his whole fucking life almost, and so hunting, fishing, game, all that kind of stuff. And you know, I've been out there in the woods with him since I was a kid, going hunting and catching, you know, getting animals, cleaning them, dressing them, going through the whole process. And I can tell you one thing, fucking being a hunter and being somebody that had spent so much time in the wilderness and on the ocean and boats, fishing and all this, made me appreciate nature like a gazillion times more than I think anybody that doesn't necessarily. I think nature is something that is overlooked, huge, and I don't think we as humans sometimes really understand the vastness and the impressiveness of Mother Earth as a general. And, you know, being out there in the mountains and seeing the animals, you know, even when you're hunting them, just being involved in this whole process and just knowing them, and then taking an animal and going through that whole process of all the care and responsibility that comes to do this correctly, and then serve this meat to other people. And when my family didn't have money, when they were broke as fuck, the animals that my dad had caught helped feed that family. That my you know, they're all broke, living in this little apartment in North Seattle, and you know, hunting season, they go out there with their tags and they get their elk, or they get their deer. They would catch fish, they would grouse, all the, you know, fuck, that all went onto the table.
And
hunters love the environment.
Yes.
Some of the most environmentally responsible and important organizations in the world are full of basically hunters.
And there's a problem that people don't understand when you advocate against hunting is that, well, if you are not the top of the food chain, then you better bring somebody in who's going to do the dirty work. Because if you don't, you're going to have all these prey animals that are going to be running rampant all over the place. You have to do something because there's not enough food. And the idea that if you don't kill them, they're just going to be okay and peaceful and live with us, you're crazy. They're going to slam into cars, they're going to die of starvation, and you're going to have a predator population increase.
Well, there's a responsibility as human beings on this planet and our involvement in this planet's ecosystem that we have to work on managing it.
I'd be the fucking punching bag every.
Yeah.
I'd be Daniel's
it's
son
good for
every
you.
day.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's good for you to get your ass kicked.
Really?
Yeah, it's good for you to know how easy it is for a man to kick your ass, too.
It's
good for you. It's good for you to get destroyed. It's good for you to get mounted and triangle choked and shit. It's good because you realize how easy it is for someone to do that to you, because most people have no idea. They walk through this world having no idea
I agree,
of how some
100%.
Marcelo Garcia character could just fucking take your life anytime he wanted to. And not just take your life. How about this? How about take my life? How about I've been doing jiu-jitsu since 96, and that little dude from Brazil could strangle the fuck out of me any day he wants. That's reality. And I'm almost a black belt. I'm like high level. There's a lot of people I've choked out. I can choke out some good people, man. And that guy could just tap me anytime he wants.
What's going on, what makes it so much fun, is a filter for douchebags.
Yeah.
Because in the sport of jiu-jitsu, the sport is, the game plan is to tap someone out, to put someone in a position, in a chokehold or an arm bar. None of it hurts. You just tap out when you feel like you can't get out, and you tap out, give up, and then the guy lets go of the hold. So that's like a kill for you. No one got hurt, but you tapped out, you couldn't get out. Douchebags can't walk through the fire, those beginning stages where they're getting tapped out, they're losing the game, because they take it too personally. Everybody has an ego, but douchebags have the biggest egos, so they can't go into jiu-jitsu and go through the learning phases where they're losing, where they're tapping out, losing a game of death. You know, they can't handle it, so they never even get to jiu-jitsu. The only guys that make it through are the guys that have a complete control of their ego, where they tap out in the beginning all the time. You're always losing in the beginning. You're just tapping out. It doesn't hurt. You're tapping out, but your ego can get bruised if you don't have control of it. So what ends up happening is jiu-jitsu is the ultimate douchebag filter. You're left with a bunch of guys that had no problem tapping out and no problem submitting.
No problem dealing with reality. Because the reality is, every dickhead wants to think that he's the fucking man. Yeah. Every guy wants to think that, there's so many guys that are like, bro, if I got into MMA, I'm tell you right now, I'm not into that MMA, but if I get into it, I'll fucking be running shit.
Yeah.
Fuck GSP. I'm a natural born fighter.
Yeah.
There's some dudes who are just natural. And those guys, they can't handle jiu-jitsu because some little Cade dude will choke their fucking lights out.
Yeah.
When you get really good at something as difficult as jiu-jitsu, it makes everything in your life better.
And when we say anybody can do it,
anybody.
That's not a sales pitch. Anybody can do it. Little girls, little 5-year-old, 6-year-old girls do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Old ladies do jiu-jitsu. Anybody can do it. Contrary to popular belief, you go to jiu-jitsu school, it's not these barbaric animals that want to rip your arm off. It's the opposite, because
mostly nerds.
Yeah, it's mostly
our classes
nerds.
Are mostly like computer nerds who will kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Computer nerds that are addicted to gaming.
Like Cade. If you didn't know Cade, you look Nelson. At Cade Nelson. He's wicked. His jiu-jitsu's wicked, and he's a very small guy. He's like 140 pounds at the most, right? He's not a big guy.
He's 130. Black belt.
Nasty technique. Yeah. Nasty technique. But if you look at him, he's like all skin and bones, man.
And he's the nicest guy on the planet.
Nicest guy.
It's totally not a bunch of killers who just, literally, yes, you learn jiu-jitsu, you are learning how to kill people, but
they're not animals. They're not mean people. They're like really cool, nice folks, like so many of them. Like Brent. You look at Brent, like what a nice looking guy. Like seems like just a normal, real friendly, nice to everybody.
Yeah.
Choke your fucking lights out.
The sport itself?
I think every man, if you're going to have to deal with some form of aggression in your life, you're going to ultimately worry or wonder what happens if this becomes physical. And I think taking that off the table and learning martial arts as the animal, human being, is a great way to prevent anybody ever fighting. I've never seen a fight at a dojo. I've never seen a fight at a jiu-jitsu gym. I've never seen a fight. I've never seen a fight between fighters. For the most part, most fighters, they can communicate better because they know that they don't want to fight. Like, they don't have anything to prove. They know exactly what they can do.
Any jiu-jitsu is better than no jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing to have the skill to protect your family, to protect your loved ones by being an expert at scientifically subduing someone and putting them to sleep non-violently and getting the hell out and getting to safety, And
it's a fun way to exercise, man. A lot of people don't like going to the gym, just riding a bike. It's fucking boring, And a lot of people can't motivate themselves to do that. Jiu-jitsu will motivate you to do it. It's fun. It's fun.
So that's why they call it the vine of death, actually. It's one of the reasons, is because ayahuasca, one of the first things it's going to do, it's going to make you confront your death. And if you're not ready for that, you'll fight that, and you'll battle with that until the end, but you got to just kind of get past that first step. The first one was just basically coming to terms with my own mortal death. I mean, every possible way I could die. Snakes eating out my organs, sliding down vines of thorns, every possible way that I could confront my death, I had to go through. It was even telling me, it was like, your body is riddled with cancer. You're going to die as soon as you get back. And I was like, oh, that was the one that got me, actually. The thorns and the snakes eating me, and actually the insects burrowing in my skin and exploding. All of that stuff, I was like, all right, I'm cool with that. Like, I can get over that. But then it was like, your body's riddled with cancer and you're going to die. And at that point,
What a
I had,
dick.
yeah, exactly. But at that point, I had to be like, okay, you know, if this is the end, so be it. And as soon as that happened, I could feel, you know, the medicine just kind of draw me back down into the ground in a deep sense of peace and a kind of conquering of a fear of suffering that I had. Fortunately, the first session I had the last time a year ago got me through that. And then the next one, I was just brought to what the shamans call the 8th dimension. They call it out there. That's just the paradigm that they use. But it was just this unbelievably lucid place where I had, to get me there, I had a flotilla drawing smoke out of me, and then I had another one that was shooting a beam of light under my tongue. After that happened, I just burst into this other dimension. And from that dimension, I could see people that I wanted to see. I could scan my body. I could look towards the future, towards business, towards anything. And everything was just perfectly lucid in this universe that didn't change no matter which direction I looked at. And it was the incredibly profound, life-changing experience in the last session. Yeah.
So anyway, this guy's singing this thing.
Yeah.
So
here it is.
You're tripping balls already.
So so the first time I had kind of a real physical purge, not too much to talk about. I was nauseous the whole time. I was puking and shitting, and it was more about my body getting prepared for the second session. So the second session, I doubled up on the cups, and it's about an hour and a half in, and I'm listening. You're basically hearing what I'm hearing at this point in time. The shaman's kind of rattling his leaves and singing his songs. And then the experience starts to get rich, like it did, the time before. And what appears to me is like a nexus of energy right in front of me. And unlike last time where things were coming at me, snakes and eels were just charging at me from all directions, this time it was subtler. I felt like I was looking into like a black hole or a wormhole.
What is that sound?
The whistling?
No, the background.
That's the, I don't know, the cricket type.
That's the insects in the jungle.
That's the insects in the jungle.
Dude.
We're outside in the jungle, yeah. I mean, this is the real jungle.
Dude, just that alone.
Yeah, no, it's the real deal.
I mean, somebody got a rattle? I'm like, what is that? Is that a rattle? No, that's insects.
Yeah.
That's what Ohio sounds like at night.
I don't think Ohio sounds quite like the jungle sound.
No, those insects.
I'm sure. I mean, there are some insects in Ohio. There's some insects out here at night, too. Yeah. But not so much
Not
you can
like
hear
that.
them on an MP3 player like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know if it'll catch
Something
any of the howler
scarier
monkeys.
about the jungle.
Sure. I mean, there's
bugs.
jaguars and monkeys and all snakes.
Did you see
and all
anything like
kind of
that?
shit. No, we did see a tapir though as we were going through, which was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of those little anteater guys. But anyway, so it appears to me as like a nexus, and nothing much is happening.
The phone?
Yeah. Is there a nexus?
Google phone?
No, but it's like a vortex. Let's say like a vortex, and it's kind of swirled with some different colors, purple, and it's just kind of waiting there for me. So I was like, well, I guess maybe I should ask something to come through it because nothing really was happening. So I'm looking and I was like, all right, I'd like to be, if anything's out there on the other side, please come to me. And I say that to myself in my head. And then bursting through comes this huge dragon, like this giant the dragon head was just 10 feet right in front of me. And it was a silver dragon in the kind of medieval stylings. And it had fluorescent green and blue highlights. And smoke was coming out of his nose. And he was like clearly a fire-breathing type of dragon. And he comes right up to me and he goes, so you want to change the world? And I go, yes. And he goes, why? And he's like flaming coming out of his mouth. And I was like, because that's what I'm here for. And he goes, wah, ha, 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 and laughs. And for whatever reason, I decided to take him like Never-Ending Story, and I just hopped on his back.
What?
At that point, yeah. So I hopped on his back, and he starts cruising, and we're kind of cruising through, and he goes, so why do you want to change the world?
This sounds like a kid's movie.
I know, that's right. It was fully Never-Ending Story. And I go, to help people. And then I thought that was a pretty good answer. And he goes, are you sure? And then right there, he like shows me a cross section of my life and all my actions. And what he showed me is that even though ostensibly I do a lot of things to help people, there's always a serious component of propping myself up, my own ego, my own persona, my own kind of establishing my own self in the world for, egoistic and pride reasons. And he just showed me this like lucidly clear, that there was a mixture of my actions, and he wanted to.
As with all of us.
Yeah, and he wanted to have me be aware of where that boundary line lie, and not to trick myself or confuse myself in thinking that, what I was doing wasn't also for my own benefit. So I was like, all right, Dragon, like 1 point for you. And then so we're cruising. So then we keep cruising, and he starts to really get heated in the mouth, like flame was trickling out, and he goes, what do you want to destroy? And he like swoops down, and I was sure he was ready to just fuck some shit up. So I was like, ignorance. And I thought he was just going to lay the ground with fire, And instead he goes, shouldn't that be what you want to heal? And I was like, yep, I guess you're right, Dragon. So he was really like challenging me in these answers that I gave him, which was a pretty interesting kind of experience, for this other entity to be clearly, showing me different sides and teaching me things that I clearly wasn't quite aware of.
Maybe you were. Maybe
I
you
was.
somewhere in the back of your head were aware of, your shortcomings. Or not even shortcomings, just slight bullshitting.
Yeah, exactly. So he wanted to just carve away all that nonsense and then show me the rest. So the dragon, I was still on his back, and he drops me off in the woods. All right, so he drops me off in the woods, and I'm walking through the woods.
Okay, so wait a minute. How did you get to the woods, though?
I'm on the dragon's back. Full never-ending story. Imagine the dog.
But are you really in the woods? You're really in the woods.
I'm in the jungle, but whatever this...
How did you really get there, though? I mean, you really didn't fly around in a fucking dragon, did you?
Well, in my mind, I did. I was cruising on a dragon, and then all of a sudden he drops me off, and I hop off. I don't know. The details of how I got off the dragon into the woods are
I wonder
clear.
what was really going on while you... what would I have seen?
Are you on the dragon now?
I'm off the dragon. The dragon let me off.
What would I wonder what I would see if I saw you doing that? Would you just be walking? And I'd be go, what are you doing?
Probably
like,
sitting
this dragon's
down.
Yeah,
teaching me so much about myself. I'm like, what fucking dragon are you talking about, man?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I dismount from the dragon somehow, and I'm in the woods, and I see a bear. And the bear has a big, giant crown.
This sounds
on
like
its head.
a terrible idea to be tripping your balls off in the jungle.
Yeah.
Wandering through the woods by yourself,
a-
and I'm assuming it's nighttime too, right?
Yeah, it was nighttime. Well, I'm laid out. This is all happening in my mind.
Okay, so you're not even moving.
I'm not even moving.
Okay.
No, I'm
Okay,
fully.
so you weren't actually in the woods.
No.
Okay,
no,
good.
No, I'm on my back in the jungle in the physical world, and then in
now I
my
feel
mind's
better.
eye, yeah.
Now I feel bad.
My mind's eye. So
I thought you were
I'm
saying
going
you were
through-
walking around for real. while
That's a
you were
little
tripping.
scary. Yeah, that's a little scary. So I get dropped in like a forest, and it was like a woodsy forest, like a Colorado type forest, different than the jungle. And I see a bear, and the bear has a gold crown on its head and a bunch of gold chains all over it. Like
Mr. T Bear.
Mr. T Bear, exactly. And the bear is kind of struggling, and I see kind of like a ghost of the bear, like the spirit of the bear, and it's trying to leave the bear's body. It's trying to like venture out, but it's stuck. And then the bear catches sight of me, and that's another crazy thing about seeing these beings. It's like the bear like turns to look at me and like notices me. It's not like he was waiting for me there. He's like, oh, here you are. Like you just showed up. So he turns to me and he goes, I remember before all this crown and all these chains when I was just a bear and I could run free in the woods. And I was like, okay, I get it. And basically what he was trying to tell me is that, don't ever let money and wealth or anything tie you down and like keep you from your freedom and expressing what your real nature is. And it's really kind of like a Buddhist sentiment.
That's a difficult thing for people to do. It sounds like such a noble task when you're poor. The real problem is once you actually get money. One of the big things that happens to people when they get money is they're scared of not having money, so they start doing things they think like they'll like, especially like I see this with comics. They like start saying things they think people want to hear, or they start like avoiding any sort of controversy that might get them in trouble, or moving away from anything that might be controversial because they want to keep this money coming in.
Yeah.
you know, I got a career now. I got to keep my career coming in.
And the bear becomes no longer a bear in this analogy.
Bear's got gold chains on, looking like a retard.
Yeah, exactly.
Did this bear ask you for a picnic basket?
he might have. It got real gay. It did get real gay after that. I mean,
tried to fuck
so at that point, like I don't know. I somehow was able to like free the bear's spirit after he said that, and we went like frolicking through the woods.
So
it was real gay.
He was your boy?
He was my boy after that. So we like cruised around, and then the final visitation from this being is I was cruising through the forest, like hopping over logs. It was very like Robin Hood cartoon style, you know,
Right.
Little John and Robin Hood through the forest type of program. And then so up, you know, and then all of a sudden I see an eagle up in the sky. And I like raise my consciousness to the eagle. It was really like a dream state, so anything's possible, you know. So I just kind of float up to the eagle, and the eagle looks at me, and I'm cruising along. And the eagle says, "Do you know how I see so well?" And I said, "No." He says, "Because I see through everybody else's eyes." And I took a moment to sink in. And what he was showing me there was that all so often when we try and imagine what people are thinking or feeling, we have our own bias. We don't actually truly see through their eyes. Like imagine what their fears and motivations and weaknesses, even the people that we don't like, we always see them with this kind of biased look like, oh, that dude's a fucking idiot. But you know, if we really try to get into their eyes, you can learn something about that person and learn something about the world by actually dropping all of your kind of own ego and really assuming the eyes of whatever else you're trying to look at, whether it's an animal or a person or something like that.
I've tried that. I've tried that with a lot of people. I try that especially with people that I don't like.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how they got that, especially once I had kids. Once I had kids, then I started looking at people completely different because I looked at them as babies that became adults. So I looked at this weird process. Like, I used to see someone who was weak. I'm like, you fucking weak bitch. What's wrong with you? That's what I would think. And now I look at them like, oh, wow, what happened? How'd you get to this spot where you don't have any courage or you don't have any whatever, whatever it is, or you hate, or you're racist, whatever's broken on you. How'd you get there? Yeah,
absolutely.
I think a great many of the religious experiences that people have had can be connected to psychedelics, including like Mayan art and Egyptian art. Because one of the creepiest things that I've found is that, especially on mushrooms, I have seen a lot of like Mayan things. I've seen like a lot of like Mayan imagery and like freshly painted Mayan hieroglyphs. Like you see that sort of imagery and you wonder what came first, the chicken or the egg.
That's one interesting thing about the psychedelics that make it seem like it's not your mind. Like someone can take ayahuasca anywhere in the world, the desert, the mountains, the city, whatever, and they're almost always going to have similar visions of snakes and the jungle and these different beings, jaguars. Always goes back to the jungle. You know, how is that possible if it's just solely being mind created?
One of the first DMT trips that I had, one of the weirdest feelings about it all was that the idea of being connected to everything sounds like such fucking hippie bullshit. It sounds like nonsense. Say we are here, but we are connected to everything. I'm not feeling that. I know that might be real, but for whatever reason, I don't really feel that. I don't feel the subatomic particles. I don't feel the atom. I don't feel the cell. I just feel me. And I know that I'm breathing air, but I don't feel the fact that the air is connected to all these. It's all a soup of things.
Yep.
But when you have the DMT experience, one of the things that it does is it strips whatever you're experiencing while you're tripping your balls off. It strips away the physical presence of things. And it's almost like the world of, here's the ground and here's the air and here's a tree and here's a building. That world is replaced by a world where nothing has any matter.
Yeah.
Nothing has any physical matter, but everything is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere, and you're in the middle of it, and there's no ends, and there's no beginning, there's no roof, there's no floor. It's just one thing. It's all a part of one thing, and you're in there scrambling, trying to make sense of it, and these things come out of nowhere that are essentially constantly changing as you're watching them, so you're not even sure what the fuck it actually is. And, it might be your own mind. It might be your own mind trying to make sense of the whole thing, and they're trying to give you information. One of the things they try to tell you is to try to stop, don't freak out, and try to suck it all in. Try to take in as much as you can, because you know this is crazy, and they tell you they love you too. That's like, it's always a big thing. Like, love you, like the one experiences that I had, they sang to me like a child. They had this song, I love you 600,500,000 times, which is like how a kid would say something. And then they would go, look at this. And then they would show me something fucking insane. Something where you couldn't look at it. Like, it was too beautiful to look at. And then it would say it again, like, I love you 600,500,000 times. Look at this. And every time it was, look at this, like, I remember crying. Because what I was looking at was too impossible. Nothing could be that beautiful. And every time they would say, look at this, it would get 1,000,000 times more beautiful. It was just taking my breath away. I couldn't breathe. It was very, very strange. But it was very, very, very positive. The experience all over was very positive. And so much of it was like, dude, relax. Relax. Like, this whole thing is, first of all, way beyond your control, way bigger than you think, and it's gonna be fine. Like, that was like a big theme. That, if anything that I learned from it, I learned that. I think DMT made me a nicer person. I think I learned how to chill out more.
It's really valuable that way. Actually, just speaking about what you were saying, so the third time I drank, I didn't have any particularly crazy visions, but for 3 hours, I the hut that I was in, everything else melted away, and I felt myself dissolve into the floor of the jungle. And I was like, the bugs, the bugs and the worms were crawling through me. Like, the air it was like I was no longer a physical being, and I was absolutely one with the jungle. And I was like, hey, does the dragon want to show up? Does anybody want to come? But nobody wanted to come. It was just like literally 3 hours just breathing with the jungle. And I left that, and I was like, it was just a really grounding and connecting experience. But it was almost, at that point, I think the message to me was like, we're done teaching you silly little lessons. Like, take this, be grounded, be humbled, be connected, and go off and do, do your work, do what you need to do.
Ayahuasca's version of get it together, bitches.
It was just really so peaceful. And so, but I remember, all of the things that normally would creep me out, the creepy crawlers of the jungle. You look at the ground in the jungle and it's alive. There's moving, ants moving, right? All kinds of shit. That was me. That was in my body, and I was just totally relaxed and disintegrated. And that was a really kind of powerful medicinal effect.
The vine of thorns, sliding down a vine of thorns to your death.
Naked. That was the fucked up part. I was like, why do I gotta be naked? Like, why does it take my genitals first? Like, for what reason?
And it's just shredding
them.
How much pain were you in?
You don't feel the physical pain, but you have that kind of horror. Yeah, the horror of your genitals being mutilated as you're sliding down a vine of thorns. So it can get intense, but you just gotta remove yourself from that kind of angst, and just witness and allow. That's the mantra. Anybody who's going through any of these experiences, just witness it and allow it to happen. It's so hard to say. I mean, I particularly like the paradigm that the shamans have there, in which case they describe, all of these different dimensions as the layers of an onion, and each person as a toothpick that pierces all the different layers of the onion. And so that you're occupied in your consciousness on the first, tangible layers, which encompass the first through the fourth, space and time, basically. That's what you're conscious of. And then the fifth part of the toothpick, as you move up to another layer, that's the dream state. That's the collective consciousness. And then the sixth and seventh dimensions, those have the disembodied non-human entities that you interact with, like the floats that I found were from the seventh. They would call the dragon and these other things that you see, the people singing you child songs, and those are beings of the sixth dimension. And then the eighth dimension is this kind of oversight dimension where you can actually manipulate all the dimensions beneath it and see everything. It's like the highest vantage point where you can see, and the dimension of imminent possibility, where you can basically do what you're saying with your imagination, believe things into reality from the eighth dimension, imagine things into reality.
Has anybody ever had an experience from the eighth dimension where they imagined some reality and then manifested it and then wrote about it? This is where I got this idea.
Yeah, the shamans do, and that's where they say they got the idea to create ayahuasca, and they get these messages and these different herbal treatments, and it's from these eighth dimension teachings that they have. I don't know. I mean, whether the tobacco is a vehicle for some kind of trigger or whether it itself did something, whatever happened, I had like the most intense purge that I've ever had in my life, like savage. And that was his intention while doing it. So
Was it menthol?
it does have a different.
Maybe it
different
wasn't
smell.
tobacco, you know. Maybe that was what he like, quote unquote,
Yeah,
tobacco.
seriously.
It was really some kind of poison.
Seriously.
to do
Roofied
that.
you, son.
But it was potent, and that's something that I think that's why they call it the master medicine, because you feel like you purge all of these different poisons from your body.
Jesus Christ. It seems like you should be able to do that in America.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so ridiculous you have to get on a canoe to do this.
And I bring you precious contraband and ancient tales from distant lands. Conquerors and concubines and conjurers from darker times. Betrayal and conspiracy, sacrilege and heresy. And I feel alright.